She had 10 coins and she lost a single one. Lit a lamp and swept the whole house through. Looked in every corner, every crease, every crevice. Didn't rest until the missing one came to. Jesus told that story at a table full of critics, people who were asking why he ate with sinners there. His answer wasn't an argument or a defense. His answer was a woman and a coin and a prayer. I've been the coin before, I know that dust rolled onto something hidden from the light. Not by anyone's intention, not by punishment, just lost the way that things get lost at night. And she lit the lamp and started looking anyway. Not because I'd called out or had earned the search, but because a missing thing is worth the looking for. That's the reason for the parable. That's the worth. 9 coins sitting safe, don't keep her from the one. She sweeps until the single one is found.
Until it's found. Until it's found.
The coin in the dust, the lamp still burning, the woman on her knees across the floor. The coin in the dust, the sweeping and the seeking. That's the kind of God that I am grateful for. Not a God who counts the ones he has and calls it good. Not a God who says the math is close enough. The coin in the dust is worth the whole search to him. And that's the news that never stops being enough. Never stops being enough. There are people in my life who felt like lost coins, rolled away from where they used to be. And I confess I didn't always light the lamp for them. Sometimes I let the counting stop at the 9 I see. It's easier to say the 9s are doing well, to focus on the ones who didn't roll away. But the parable keeps asking about the one, and the woman never stopped until the end of the day. I think about the prodigal who walked back up the road, expected punishment, rehearsing what he'd say. But the father was already running toward him, had probably been watching every single day. The lamp was lit before the sun turned home. The searching didn't start when he appeared. The love was always pointed toward the missing. The return was only finding what was already neared. I wanna be the kind who lights the lamp and searches, not the kind who counts the 9 and calls it done.
Light the lamp. Light the lamp.
The coin in the dust, the lamp still burning, the woman on her across the floor. The coin in the dust, the sweeping and the seeking. That's the kind of God that I am grateful for. Not a God who counts the ones he has and calls it good. Not a God who says the math is close enough. The coin in the dust is worth the whole search to him. And that's the news that never stops being enough. Never stops being enough. Been thinking about the moment when she found it, the way it must have caught the lamplight on the ground. She didn't just pick it up and put it in her pocket. She called the neighbors over when it was found. Called them in to celebrate a coin. Not a kingdom, not a fortune, just one small thing. But the finding of the lost was worth a gathering, worth the neighbors and the laughter and the singing. That's the kind of joy that breaks the ordinary. That's the kind of party heaven throws, when a single person finds their way back somewhere. When the lamp and the searching finally close, I wanna carry that kind of gladness with me toward the people who are somewhere in the dust. Not with judgment, not with a score of how they got there, but with a lamp and a relentless kind of trust.
Relentless kind of trust.
Relentless kind of trust. He is sweeping every corner of the city, every quiet room and every crowded hall, looking for the ones who rolled beneath the ordinary, looking for the ones who feel too small to call.
Been reading about Peter fishing all night long. Nothing in the water, nothing on the line. Tired in the way that tired goes right through you. Empty-handed as the morning tried to shine. Then the teacher on the shore said, lower it again. Cast the net on the other side this time. Something in the simplest kind of instruction, something in the foolishness of trying one more time. Peter might have laughed a little, I would have told this man who didn't fish for a living thanks, but dropped it anyway, probably from exhaustion. And then the nets were breaking at the banks. More fish than the net was built to handle, more than a whole night of nothing could explain. And something in that moment changed in Peter. He fell down before the Lord in the boat's grain. He could have kept on rowing toward the shore. He could have said he tried, and that was that. The net let down one more time in the morning. One more cast after a night of nothing there. The net let down. Who would have thought it different lake, the same water, same boat. The net let down one more time in the morning. One more yes, when every no was what I wrote. I've had my nights of casting and of nothing, effort into darkness, pulling empty back, thinking that the problem was the water, thinking that I needed to change the track. And sometimes I did need a different direction. Sometimes what I thought was the right pond was not. But sometimes what I needed was the same pond and a different angle on the very same spot. He knows where the fish are, that's the thing of it. He's standing on the shore with a wider view. What looks empty from the boat I'm rowing in might be full of something he can see right through. Let the net down on the other side this morning, metaphorically in something I had quit, something I had written off as not my season, something I had closed and said, that's it. 3 months later, what it seemed like nothing started moving, started filling up with life. Just because I tried the other side when told to, just because I listened past the night. The teacher on the shore sees more than the fisherman. That's the whole point of the whole story, really. The net let down one more time in the morning. One more cast after a night of nothing there. The net let down, who would have thought it mattered? Who would have thought obedience would snare? The fish were on the other side the whole time, not a different lake, the same water, same boat. The net let down one more time in the morning. One more yes, when every no was what I wrote. Something about a fishing story does something to me, always has since I was just a kid. The ordinary men called from their boats and nets, the ordinary life of what they did. And he chose them not for anything impressive, chose them while they smelled of yesterday's catch. Not philosophers, not men of learning, just men who knew the water and the latch. And he takes the same approach, I think, in every era. Finds us at the boats we know and calls, says put the net down one more time, I'll show you, then waits to see what happens when it falls. The breaking of the net is not the point. The point is that it went down in the first place. The miracle comes after the decision, after yes, after trust, after grace. I wanna be the kind of person who drops the net again, who doesn't let a night of nothing make the call, who hears the voice and changes the angle slightly, and lets what he determines rise or fall. Because the water is not empty when he's present, because the other side is only one instruction away, because the net that broke was mended and kept fishing, because Peter gave his boat up on that day. That morning on the shore changed everything for Peter, not because the fish were more than he could bear, but because the man who told him where to cast them was the Lord he hadn't fully met until right there. The net let down one more time in the morning. One more cast after a night of nothing there. The net let down, who would have thought it mattered? Who would have thought
more times than I'd like to put a number to. Not with a hard heart, just a full calendar. Just a head turned wrong in a schedule I ran through. The holy shows up wearing ordinary clothing, doesn't call ahead or announce what it will need. Comes when every room is full of other matters. Comes precisely when I'm moving at full speed. Missed it in a Tuesday at the coffee shop. Someone wanting conversation, I had calls. Missed it in a neighbor with the groceries. Walked on past, pretended not to see the halls. Missed it in a phone call I kept meaning to return. Kept meaning to, but never found the day. And then the day was gone, and so was something with it. Something I could never quite replace. He doesn't shame me for the rooms I've filled with lesser things. He just keeps knocking at the door.
Keep the door. Keep the door.
The innkeeper's second chance. He woke the next morning, heard the shepherds talking in the square. The innkeeper's second chance. He could have kept on sleeping, could have stayed inside and said he didn't care. But something in the story says he went and looked. Something in the man said, go and see. The innkeeper's second chance. I think he found the manger. I think that's what he's always offering me.
Always offering me.
Read about Zacchaeus up inside the sycamore tree, climbing up to get a better look. Not invited, not expected, just a curious man with more wrong on his ledger than a book. And then the Lord looked up and said, come down from there. Tonight I'm gonna eat at your house. The crowd was not too pleased about the choice he made, but he walked right past them to the one left out. I've been the crowd before, offended by the mercy given to the ones I'd written off. I've ranked the undeserving and the less than worthy. I've held my grace at arm's length, played it soft. But he said, I came to seek and save the lost, not the ones who think they've got it figured out. And Zacchaeus came back down and changed completely, because mercy met him where there was no doubt. The second chance is offered every single morning, fresh as any mercy on the dew.
Fresh and new.
Fresh and new.
Fresh and new.
The innkeeper's second chance. He woke the next morning, heard the shepherds talking in the square. The innkeeper's second chance. He could have kept on sleeping, could have stayed inside and said he didn't care. But something in the story says he went and looked. Something in the man said, go and see. The innkeeper's second chance. I think he found think that's what he's always offering me.
Always offering me.
There's a man I owe a conversation to, one I've been avoiding without cause. Not a falling out, nothing happened between us, just the slow erosion that busyness draws. Kept meaning to reach out and never did it, kept putting it in some tomorrow I'd arrange. Tomorrows have a way of staying tomorrows until one day the reaching feels too strange. But the innkeeper's second chance is still available. The manger is still sitting in the hay. The Lord is still inviting me to Zacchaeus' table, still calling me to show up and to stay. I'm gonna make that call this week, I mean it now. Not because I'm better than I was before, but because the second chance keeps getting offered, and I can't keep walking past the open door.
Open door.
Open door.
Open door.
Every time he offers me another morning, every time the mercy shows up new, that's the innkeeper's second chance in practice. That's the gift I didn't earn but stumbled through. Not gonna fill the rooms with things that block the holy. Gonna leave some space along the edge. Gonna slow down at the corners and the counters. Gonna keep the innkeeper's pledge. The innkeeper's second chance. He woke the next morning, heard the shepherds talking in the square. The innkeeper's second chance. He could have kept on sleeping, could have stayed inside and said he didn't care. But something in the story says he went and looked. Something in the man said go.
Went camping in the mountains late September, just myself in an old tent and a sleeping bag. Forecasted clear skies for the first 2 evenings. Then a front would push through like a drag. Set the tent up in the early light, hammered every peg in like I meant it. Knew the storm was coming, took my time, made sure every corner was committed. Rain arrived around 2 in the morning, came in sideways harder than expected. Lay there listening to the poles flexing outward, waited to see which peg would be rejected. None of them gave way, everyone held firm. Tent stayed standing through the whole long night. Came out in the morning somewhat breathless, but everything was standing in the light. The preparation you do in the calm is the thing that holds you in the storm. Tent peg in the storm, hammered in the good times, holding fast when the weather comes undone. Tent peg in the storm, everything depending on the quiet work you did before it begun. He is the peg that doesn't pull free under pressure. He is the stake that holds when all else bends. kind of anchor that the scripture recommends. Read about the house upon the rock that morning, sitting outside with the wet ground at my feet. Storm that came and beat against the solid could not bring it down, no matter what it beat. And the house upon the sand, the same storm came to it, same rain, same wind, same test of what was there. But the sand gave way because the sand was always sand, and the house went down because it couldn't bear. I built on sand and seasons I'm not proud of, foundations made of certainty I felt, feelings that felt solid on a Tuesday and dissolved by Saturday like nothing dealt. But the rock is not a feeling I've discovered. The rock remains regardless of the weather I'm in, even when I can't feel anything beneath me. The rock is still the rock the peg is driven in. That's the grace of it. The foundation holds, not because I'm standing on it perfectly, but because the one who is the foundation doesn't move when I am full of uncertainty. Every tent peg I have ever needed, he was putting in before I knew the storm. Tent peg in the storm, hammered in the good times, holding fast when the weather comes undone. Tent peg in the storm, everything depending on the quiet work you did before it begun. He is the peg that doesn't pull free under pressure. He is the stake that holds when all else bends. Tent peg in the storm, driven deep and certain, the kind of anchor that the scripture recommends. Hiked out the next day on muddy trails, everything smelled clean the way it does after rain. Puddles in the boot prints of the path before me, sun coming through the trees in golden lanes. Thought about the people in my life who held through storms that I had not expected to survive. People who stayed standing in the sideways weather, people whose tent pegs kept me all alive. There was one who sat with me on a floor one night when everything I thought I had gave way. Didn't say much, didn't need to, just stay present. That was the tent peg for that particular day. And I've been asked to be that for somebody, to stay and hold when everything is wet, to be the peg that doesn't pull free under pressure. That's the call I haven't finished answering yet. He equips us for what he's calling us toward, makes the pegs from what he's put inside, sets us in the ground before the storms arrive, so someone else can shelter, can abide. Put the tent away at the trailhead parking lot, mud still on the fly, pegs bent but intact, held up through the night because the work was done before. That's the lesson I am taking back. Tent peg in the storm, hammered in the good times, holding fast when the weather comes undone. Tent peg in the storm, everything depending on the quiet work you did before it begun. He is the peg that doesn't pull free under pressure. He is the stake that holds when all else bends. Tent peg in the storm, driven deep and certain, the kind of anchor that the scripture recommends. Tent peg in the storm, still in the ground, he put it there before the rain began.
moon doesn't make its own light. Did you know that? Just reflects the sun back down to us at night. All that glow we see from down here looking upward is just borrowed from a much more powerful light. I've been thinking about that on my evening walks lately. How I wander under something I didn't earn. How the light that falls across my path was given. How the warmth I carry isn't mine in return. Standing at the corner of the block I grew up on, same old street lamp flickering the same. Everything looks different than it did at 17, but I'm still borrowing the light just the same. Used to think that I had something worth presenting. Used to walk around like I had made myself. Now I know the glow that people sometimes see in me is nothing I produced and nothing by myself. Borrowed light is still enough to see by. The moon does what it's made to do, and so do you. And so do you. Borrowed light, shining in a borrowed life. Everything I have was placed here by his hand. Borrowed light, I didn't strike the fire. I just carried what he lit across the land. Walking through the dark with something that was given. Grateful that the giver never takes it back. Borrowed light, his mercy in the evening. All the illumination that I lack. All the illumination. My grandfather was a deacon at a small church. Woke up early every Sunday, pressed his suit. Didn't talk about his faith the way some people do. Let it show up in the things he chose to do. Drove the elderly to services on winter mornings. Checked on neighbors when the weather turned cold. Never made a sermon out of any of it. Just kept borrowing the light and letting it unfold. I didn't understand it when I was a young man. Thought that faith was something louder, something grand. Now I think the quietest among us are the brightest. Now I think I'm starting to understand. Every good thing flowing through my hands to someone didn't originate in me. He's the source, he's the source. Borrowed light, shining in a borrowed life. Everything I have was placed here by his hand. Borrowed light, I didn't strike the fire. I just carried what he lit across the land. Walking through the dark with something that was given. Grateful that the giver never takes it back. Borrowed light, his mercy in the evening. All the illumination. message about vessels made of clay. Treasure on the inside, plain outside the same. The point is that the value of the vessel doesn't come from what the vessel has became. It comes from what is held inside the ordinary. It comes from who placed something precious there. A cracked and common pot can carry something holy. A borrowed light can fill a room with care. I've been cracked in places I don't show to many. Seasons where the clay felt paper thin, but the treasure didn't leak out through the cracks, and the light kept burning somewhere deep within. He doesn't need the vessel to be perfect. He needs the vessel to be willing to be held, to stop insisting on its own importance and let the light inside do what it's compelled.
Let the light
Walk back home along the familiar sidewalk. Moon above me doing what it always does, reflecting something bigger, something brighter, something borrowed, something beautiful. Because the sun was there before the moon existed. Because the light was spoken long before the dark. Because he set the whole thing into motion, and every borrowed beam came from his heart.
borrowed light,
Shining in a borrowed life.
everything I have
Was placed here by his hand.
borrowed light.
I didn't strike the fire,
I just carried what he lit across the land.
walking through the dark with something that was given.
Grateful that the giver
Never takes it back.
borrowed light.
His mercy in the evening.
All the illumination that I lack,
Oh,
all the illumination that I lack.
borrowed light, moon doing what it's made to do.
Just
reflecting him.
Planted something in a pot last April. Little thing, green leaves barely getting started. Set it on the balcony beside the railing. Watered it and waited like the patient-hearted. Nothing happened for the longest time. Just the same green leaves and same green stem. Thought about the parable of the fig tree, how he came back looking for the fruit from them. 3 years in the story, nothing growing. Gardener said give it one more year with care. Dig around it, feed it something better. See what happens when you really tend with prayer. I've been that fig tree in a certain season. Leaves that looked okay, but nothing more. Going through the motions of appearing fine, while something deeper needed tending to the core. He's the kind of gardener who comes back looking, not to punish, but to tend and try again. The fig tree and the waiting, one more year of mercy. The gardener who doesn't give up on the ground. The fig tree and the waiting, grace before the judgment. Love that keeps on working till the fruit is found. I've been given more seasons than I've deserved, more chances than the story says should come. The fig tree and the waiting, patient past all reason. He keeps kneeling in the dirt, he keeps on everyone. Pot on the balcony eventually did something. late summer, small and easy to miss at first. Tiny green things forming at the branches, like the plant had finally worked up nerve to burst. I'd almost stopped expecting anything from it, had accepted it as just a leafy thing. But it knew the season even when I didn't, knew the timing even without me watching. Something in a plant that keeps its promise, even when the gardener has turned away. Even when the weather wasn't favorable, even when nobody noticed day to day. That's the kind of faith I want to practice, faithfulness that doesn't need a crowd to bloom. Quiet and persistent in the doing, right on time regardless of the room. Read a verse about the fig tree and the summer, how its leaves foretell the season drawing near. Same way you can feel the kingdom come, and if you're paying close enough attention year to year, the season always comes around regardless. The faithful tree just has to do its part. The fig tree and the waiting, one more year of mercy. The gardener who doesn't give up on the ground. The fig tree and the waiting, grace before the judgment. Love that keeps on working till the fruit is found. I've been given more seasons than I've deserved, more chances than the story says should come. The fig tree and the waiting, patient past all reason. He keeps kneeling in the dirt, he keeps on everyone. I've been the gardener too, in certain moments, giving up on people before their season came. Walking past the fig trees that looked fruitless, deciding that the waiting was a waste and shame. But he showed me something in the waiting, someone in my life who took a long time to arrive at whatever it was the Lord was working toward. And now they're one of the most fruitful things alive. I almost wrote them off in an earlier chapter, almost moved along because the leaves looked bare. Glad I didn't, glad that something held me, glad that patience has a power I couldn't see from there. The pot on the balcony is back in dormancy. Winter came and took the leaves and left the wood. Standing there through all the cold and rainy days, waiting for another April like it knew it should. And it will come back, I believe that now. The plant taught me something about trust, that dormancy is not the same as dying, and bare branches in the cold are not the end of us. There are people going through their dormant seasons, stripped of what they showed to us before. Don't write off the winter branches, keep the water coming. The gardener is still working, keep the door. The fig tree and the waiting, one more year of mercy. The gardener who doesn't give up on the ground. The fig tree and the waiting, grace before the judgment. Love that keeps on working till the fruit is found. I've been given more seasons than I've deserved, more chances than the story says should come. The fig tree and the waiting, patient past all reason. He keeps kneeling in the dirt, he keeps on everyone. The fig tree, one more year. The gardener is still in the garden. Been thinking about that innkeeper lately, the one who told them there was no room left. I've never blamed him much the way some do. He was just a man running out of breath, running a business on a crowded night. Senses had the whole town packed and loud. He probably told a dozen people no that evening. He was doing what you do inside a crowd. But I wonder what he heard the next morning, when the shepherd started talking in the street, when the star was still there over the stable, when the stories started spreading through the heat. Did he go and look and stand in the doorway? Did he see the child and understand the weight? Did he spend the rest of his life wondering what it meant to be too busy, just too late? I've been that innkeeper on ordinary days, telling holy things. There is no room in here. Room at the inn this time. I wanna make the room not too busy, not too full, not turned away at the door. Room at the inn this time. Push the furniture a little. Let the holy in that I've been saying no room for. He doesn't come the way I think he's coming, doesn't knock the way I've learned to recognize. Room at the inn this time. Looking for a manger, learning how to see him in disguise. He said, whatever you do to the least of these, you do it unto me. He said it plain. And I have walked past least of these on busy mornings, and I have told the holy there's no space to remain. Not with a hard heart, just a full schedule. Not with intention, just a head turned wrong. Too occupied with all the things I'd planned to hear the thing beneath the thing that's going on. Elderly woman on the corner every Thursday, who I smile at without ever stopping long. She could be an angel or she could be a neighbor. Either way, she probably could use a song. I've been learning to slow down at the corners, learning what I've been walking quickly past, learning that the moment I am rushing from is sometimes the most holy that could last. Hospitable, the scripture says, to strangers, not just to the ones I know by name. The kingdom lives in unexpected arrivals, in the people who are easiest to claim. What would I have done that night in Bethlehem? Be honest now, would I have made the space? Room at the inn this time. I wanna make the room not too busy, not too full, not turned away at the door. Room at the inn this time. Push the furniture a little. Let the holy in that I've been saying no room for. He doesn't come the way I think he's coming, doesn't knock the way I've learned to recognize. Room at the inn this time. Looking for a manger, a sign of not enough. The most important thing that ever happened in the roughest, most improbable of stuff. Hay and animals and shepherds and cold air. Not the palace, not the room with a proper bed. And maybe that's the lesson in the Innkeeper. It wasn't where it happened that mattered. What was said is that he comes into the margins, into the edges, into the places that we cleared for something else, into the evening conversations we were skipping, into the stable we built in ourselves. I've got a stable somewhere in the interior, some room I cleared for storage and for stress, some place I said was too small or too humble for anything I'd call important to possess. But that might be exactly where he's waiting, in the part of me I thought was not enough. Room at the inn this time, bring it to the stable. Let the holy work begin inside the rough. Next Thursday I'll stop at the corner, ask her name and mean it when I ask. Room at the inn this time, starting there, starting small. That might be the whole and only task. Room at the inn this time, I wanna make the room not too busy, not too full, not turned away at the door. Room at the inn this time, push the furniture a little. Let the holy in that I've been saying no room for. He doesn't come the way I think he's coming, doesn't knock the way I've learned to recognize. Room at the inn this time, looking for a manger, learning how to see him in disguise. Been thinking about that. Watched a potter working at the wheel one afternoon. Community Arts Center, open studio day. Walked in without much intention, ended up staying longer than I meant to stay. Clay at the start looked like nothing in particular, wet and formless on the spinning surface there. She worked it with a kind of patient steadiness, like she already saw what it would be with care. Hands pressing in and lifting and adjusting, reading what the clay was doing back to her, not forcing it exactly, more like listening, more like finding what the form preferred. Center fell apart once in the early going. She didn't flinch, just started it again. Said it happens and the clay remembers nothing. Every start is clean, and every start is a win. Stood there watching longer than I planned. Jeremiah chapter 18 came to mind. The potter's hands working at the wheel, shaping what the clay itself could never be alone. The potter's hands, patient through the failing, centering the wandering, calling back the prone. I have fallen off the wheel more times than I can count, misshapen by my own determined pull. The potter's hands beginning me again, finding in pictured is something that had yielded to the light. Asked her how she knew when it was finished. She looked at it a moment, turned it in her hand, said, "You feel it more than see it." Said the clay itself communicates its plans. I thought about how often I've declared myself done before the hands are finished with the work. How I've pulled away from what was shaping me, thinking I was finished when I'd only started at the curve. Bought the bowl before I left that afternoon, unglazed, simple weight of it felt good. Set it on the table when I got back home, put a candle in it the way a candle should. Every time I see it now, I think of that verse, how he has not finished what he has begun, how the wheel is still turning even when I'm not aware, how the hands are patient even when I run. Marred upon the wheel and made again, the same clay, a better vessel than before. The potter's hands working at the wheel, shaping what the clay itself can never be alone. The potter's hands, patient through the failing, centering the wandering, calling back the prone. I have fallen off the wheel more times than I can count, misshapen by my own determined pull. The potter's hands beginning me again, finding in the fallen something beautiful and full. There's a version of faith that looks like being finished, like arriving at a place of certainty and rest. But I think the truer version is the wheel still turning, the hand still pressing in to make the best. Not because I'm broken beyond what he intended, but because the shaping never fully ends. Each season of the clay becoming something is preparation for what the next one sends. She fired the pieces in a kiln I didn't see, said the fire is where the work gets set for good. Said the clay can't stay as clay forever, the heat does something nothing else quite could. I thought about the fire of certain seasons, how the hardest times have held a shape inside, how what I thought was only burning me to nothing was setting something permanent that lives. Walked out of that studio with a bowl and a changed mind, a little more at ease with being in the making, a little more at peace with not being done yet, a little more okay with all the undertaking. He has the wheel, he has the water and the clay, he has seen the finished thing from where he stands. My job is to stay soft enough to let it happen. My only job is yielding to his hands, the potter's hands, working at the wheel, shaping what the clay itself could never be alone. The potter's hands, patient through the failing, centering the wandering, calling back the prone. I have fallen off the wheel more times than I can count, misshapen by my own determined pull. The potter's hands beginning me again, finding in the fallen something beautiful and full. The potter's hands, the wheel still turning, not finished yet, and that is good.
Lit a candle on the windowsill last evening. No particular reason, just felt right to do.
Watch the flame adjust to every little current, steady and unsteady all at once. It's true. Thought about the verse that speaks of being light, how a city on a hill cannot be hid, how you don't light a candle just to cover it, you put it where it shines the way he did. Mine was nothing grand, just wax and wick in a holder that my mother gave me years ago. Chipped a little at the base from being moved around, but it still held the flame up, still let it glow. Sat beside it for an hour, reading slowly, cup of tea gone cold beside my hand. Every time the flame leaned left or leaned right, I felt like I was watching something I could understand. Not a spotlight, not a stadium of brightness, just one small flame doing what it can. Candle on the windowsill, burning through the evening, visible to anyone who happens to look in. Candle on the windowsill, faithful in the small things, letting what is inside find a way to begin. I don't always feel like much of a light for anyone. Some days barely holding my own flame. Candle on the windowsill, still he says to shine, and somehow that means something all the same. Read about the 10 who took their lamps out waiting, 5 who brought enough, and 5 who didn't plan. Something about preparedness and readiness, something about oil that only you can bring to hand. I've been the one who almost ran out more than once, coasted on the faith of those around me for a while, borrowed from the prayers of other people before I learned to walk my own particular mile. Candle burned down lower as the evening went on, made the room feel different when the light grew small, softer and more orange and more shadowed, everything more intimate than at the start of all. Got up and found another in the drawer, same kind, slightly shorter, brand new wick. Lit it from the dying one before it faded. Watched the new flame catch and hold and stick. That felt like something worth remembering. How one flame can light the next before it goes. How what we carry doesn't have to last forever, just long enough to pass along to those it owes. Something in the passing on of light means the light itself was never really lost. Candle on the windowsill, burning through the evening, visible to anyone who happens to look in. Candle on the windowsill, faithful in the small things, letting what is inside find a way to begin. I don't always feel like much of a light for anyone. Some days barely holding my own flame. Candle on the windowsill, still he says to shine, something all the same. My grandmother kept a candle in her kitchen window every night for as long as I remember seeing her. Said it was so anyone out in the dark could find the house. Said it was a small thing and she meant it clearer. I didn't ask her more about it back when I could. Figured it was just a habit of the old. But I think about it differently these years later, standing at my own window in the cold. She was doing what he asked without the language of a sermon, without an audience or a platform or a plan. Just a candle in a window saying someone's home in here. Come in if you need somewhere soft to land. I wanna be that kind of light for someone, not the kind that makes a lot of noise about its shine. Just the kind that's quietly and faithfully burning in whatever windowsill he's placed along the line. Blew the second candle out before I went to sleep. Said a prayer of thanks for flames that pass along, for the grandmother who kept a light in her kitchen window, for the way a small obedience becomes a song. Candle on the windowsill, burning through the evening, visible to anyone who happens to look in. Candle on the windowsill, faithful in the small things, letting what is inside find a way to begin. I don't always feel like much of a light for anyone. Some days barely holding my own flame. Candle on the windowsill, still he says to shine. And somehow that means something all the same. Candle on the window. Found my grandmother's hymnal on the shelf last weekend. Brown cover, gold letters fading at the edge, pages thin as paper you'd be scared to crinkle. Every song marked up in pencil at the ledge. She'd circled ones she loved in different seasons, stars beside the ones she sang in hard times too. Little notes and margins I could barely make out. Her own conversation with the words she knew. Sat down at the table with it open, started reading through the verses slow. Music I had memorized in childhood, landing differently now that I'm not young, not old. Something about reading an old hymn in a new morning makes the words feel carried from a different time. Like I'm holding something someone else held tightly, and the grip of it has kept its shape inside. She's been gone 11 years in February, but her pencil marks are still here on the page. Old hymn, new morning, same God through it all. Same mercies that were new when she was young. Old hymn, new morning, her voice and mine together, separate generation needs the same refrain. Old hymn, new morning, great is his faithfulness. His mercy's new as any morning rain. Found the one about the anchor for the soul. She'd underline the second verse with care, written in the margin, just one word beside it, steady. That's what she had written there. I thought about the storm she'd lived through quietly, the losses and the waiting and the wait, how she'd held to this particular promise, and how holding it had helped her not too late. Tried to hum the melody from memory, came back easier than I thought it would. Sunday mornings folded up inside the muscle. The body sometimes knows more than the head. Sang it softly at the kitchen table, not performing it for anyone but him. Just returning something that had lived inside me, back to where it came from, back to him. Turn more pages, let them take me somewhere. Old words finding new rooms in my chest. Some of them I'd never understood completely, but my grandmother had circled them as best. Maybe understanding isn't always necessary. Maybe standing in the words is all it takes. Old hymn, new morning, same God through it all. Same mercies that were new when she was young. Old hymn, new morning, her voice and mine together. Separated by the years, but singing from the same lung. The words don't age, they just keep finding people. Every generation needs the same refrain. Old hymn, new morning, great is his faithfulness. His mercy's new as any morning rain. I've been to churches with the screens and modern music, songs that move and pulse and fill the room. And I love it, I have felt him in that worship, felt the spirit moving through the boom. But there is something in the old hymns that goes deeper, something worn smooth by a million hands before. When I hold them, I'm not just singing in my kitchen, I'm singing with the saints who've gone before. My grandmother and hers before that, all the way back to someone in a field who first put words around what they were feeling and gave the rest of us a song to wield. Put the hymnal back with maybe more care than I found it, ran my hand across the fading gold. Thank the Lord for pencil marks in margins, thanked him for the people and the old. Went about the morning with a hymn still in my chest, one I hadn't thought of in a while. Carried it through everything that came at me that day, carried it from breakfast to the final mile. Old hymn, new morning, same God through it all. Same God through it all. Same mercies that were new when she was young. Old hymn, new morning, her voice and mine together. Separated by the years, but singing from the same lung. mercies new as any morning rain. Oh, him, her pencil marks, great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto Drove out to the coast on a gray November morning. Fog so thick, I almost missed the turn. Parked and walked along the path above the water, watching for the light before the bend. Heard it before I saw it, that slow rhythm, flash and dark and flash and dark again. Lighthouse doing what it's always doing, faithful to the ships it doesn't know when. Stood there at the railing, watching for a while. Something in that steadiness undid me. All those years of flashing through the darkness, whether anyone was looking, whether anyone could see. That's a kind of faithfulness I recognize, not the kind that needs to know it's working, not the kind that stops when no one's watching, not the kind that fades when morning's lurking. He's been flashing through my fog for longer than I've looked, faithful when I couldn't see the shore. Lighthouse in the fog, steady in the dark, flashing every few seconds, doing its part. Lighthouse in the fog, that's the kind you are, faithful in the places where I've drifted far. I've been a ship that's lost its bearing more than once, gone off in a direction I was sure was right. Lighthouse in the fog, you kept on flashing until I turned and found the light. Walked down closer to the water on the rocks, careful with my footing on the wet. Everything was muffled in the gray air, everything was quieter than yet. Found a flat stone and sat down on it, jacket pulled up tight against the cold. Watched the lighthouse do its patient work, the same as it had always done, I'm told. Built in 18-something by a crew of men who probably never thought too hard about the meaning. Just a tower and a lamp and a rotation, just a job to keep the coastline safe and gleaming. But someone had to do it, someone had to build it, someone had to keep the lamp supplied. And the ships that made it safely into harbor never met the hands that kept them from the tide. I thought about the people in my life like that, the ones who kept a steady light for me, without a lot of fanfare or announcing, just the faithful, constant work of being free. That old lighthouse doesn't know which ships it's saving, doesn't need to know, it just needs to shine. Lighthouse in the fog, steady in the dark, flashing every few seconds, right. Lighthouse in the fog, you kept on flashing until I turned and found the light. There was a season I spent in thick fog of my own making, choices that had clouded everything I thought I knew. Couldn't tell the water from the sky some mornings, couldn't tell the right direction to pursue. But even in that season there was something, a small flicker I kept catching in the corner of my eye. Not enough to navigate by on my own exactly, but enough to know that something faithful was nearby. He doesn't abandon ships that have gone off course. He doesn't douse the lamp because we're lost. He keeps the faithful rhythm of his presence, regardless of the season or the cost. Fog began to lift around noon out by the water, slow at first and then in bigger clearing sweeps. Lighthouse still there doing what it always does, faithful through the weather and the deeps. I stayed until the coast was mostly visible, watching how the fog retreats in time. Drove home knowing that the lighthouse keeps on flashing even when the weather turns to fine. Lighthouse in the fog, steady in the dark, flashing every few seconds, doing its part. Lighthouse in the fog, that's the kind you are. Faithful in the places where I've drifted far. I've been a ship that's lost its bearing more than once, gone off in a direction I was sure was right. Lighthouse in the fog, you kept on flashing. Pull the loaf out from the oven Sunday morning, set it on the rack and let it breathe. Smell of it went through the whole apartment, something about bread that makes you wanna stay and be. Thought about the Last Supper while I waited, how he broke it at the table, passed it round, how the ordinary act of sharing something was the place where holy ground was found. Poured a little juice into a small glass, set it next to where the bread was cooling down. Did it quietly, not making much of anything, just me and him and Sunday in this town. These small rituals carry more than they appear to, more than flour and water and a vine. Something of remembrance in the doing, something of his presence in the sign. Not a grand cathedral, not a Sunday service, just a kitchen and a grateful heart. The bread in the cup, the table set for one, but never really one. because he promised he would come. The bread and the cup, the body and the blood, remembered in the morning, covered in the love. Every time I do this, I'm connected to everyone who's done it down the years. The bread and the cup, the same across the ages, from the upper room to here. Read about the loaves and fish while eating, how 5,000 people ate their fill, sitting in the grass beside the water, while a boy's small offering worked against all skill. I've been that boy, I think, on certain mornings, showing up with something barely worth the trip, handing it to him without much confidence, and watching what he does with what I give. He doesn't need the perfect or the polished, he works with what is offered in the faith. Even when the offering feels too small to matter, he receives it and he multiplies by grace. Finished every last piece of the bread, drank the juice and sat a while in quiet. Let the morning hold me without asking anything. Sometimes rest itself becomes a diet. Thought about the feeding on the hillside, how everyone sat down before the miracle came, not rushing for the answer or the outcome, just sitting in the waiting all the same. Faith is sometimes sitting in the open before the fish and bread are multiplied. The bread and the cup, the table set for one, but never really one, because he promised he would come. The bread and the cup, the body and the blood, remembered in the morning, covered in the love. Every time I do this, I'm connected to everyone who's done it down the years. The bread and the cup, the same across the ages, from the upper room to here. Someone once told me that the table is the safest place, that something holy lives in sharing food. I didn't fully get it back when I was younger, but I understand it better in this room. All the meals in scripture carry meaning, from the manna in the wilderness to wine, from the supper in the upper room on Thursday to the feast that waits at the end of all of time. He is the bread of life, he said it plainly. Whoever comes to him will hunger no more, but the hunger that he satisfies is deeper than the one that sends us looking through the store. I come back to this table every morning, not because I've earned the right to sit, but because he set the table and he called me, and the only proper answer is to get up and commit to showing up with open hands and nothing, and receiving what he places in those hands. The bread and the cup, the body and the blood, the simplest way to touch what I don't fully understand. The bread and the cup, the table set for one, but never really one, because he promised he would come. from the upper room to here. The bread and the cup, same table. Walking home the long way through the neighborhood, slow enough to actually see the street. Sparrow on the railing of a brownstone, just sitting there on its two little feet. I stopped because the verse came back to me, the one about how not one of them will fall without the Father knowing it completely, without the Father being in it all. Stood there on the sidewalk, probably looking strange, just watching this small bird do what it does. But something in the looking felt important, something in the noticing, because if he cares about that sparrow on the railing, if every single feather is accounted for, then who am I to walk around and worry like I'm outside of what he's watching for? The city kept on moving all around me, but I stayed with the sparrow for a while. Every sparrow that falls, he already knows it. Every step I take, he sees it too. Every sparrow that falls, nothing goes unnoticed. Every single detail making it through. Don't be afraid, you're worth more than sparrows, even when it doesn't feel that way. Every sparrow that falls, he is counting every ordinary, heavy, beautiful day. Bird flew off eventually, just like that, gone before I got my phone out to take a look. Stayed there on the sidewalk for another moment, felt like a page had turned inside a book. Something about encountering a scripture out in the wild of an afternoon makes it settle differently than in the reading. Something about the unexpected room. Thought about the ways I've been afraid lately, all the things I've been trying to control, holding tight to outcomes like they needed me, forgetting who was holding my soul. Walked the rest of the way home a little lighter, not because the circumstances changed, but because a sparrow on a brownstone railing had reminded me of something rearranged. The worry didn't vanish in an instant, but the grip of it released a little bit, like a hand that's been made tight for too long. Finally trusted something else to sit with it. Fear and faith can live in the same person. One just gets to say which one leads on. Every sparrow that falls, he already knows it. Every step I take, he sees it too. Every sparrow that falls, nothing goes unnoticed. Every single detail making it through. Don't be afraid, you're worth more than sparrows, even when it doesn't feel that way. Every sparrow that falls, he is counting every ordinary, heavy, beautiful day. I've read that verse since I was just a child, sitting in the pew between my parents' arms. Sunday school and potluck suppers after that particular scripture, meaning warmth and farm. But it grows with you. I found that kind of scripture meets you in a different place each time. at 16, at 20, in the harder seasons, the same words find a different life, a different rhyme. 40 years from now, if I'm still here, I'll probably read it and find something new, a layer I couldn't see from where I'm standing, a mercy I won't understand until I do. For now the sparrow on the railing is enough. For now the afternoon reminder does its work. For now I'm walking home a little different, a little less undone by all that lurks. And that's the miracle of it, I think. Not a burning bush or parting of the sea, but a sparrow sitting still on a Saturday afternoon, catching someone who was trying not to see. Every sparrow that falls, he already knows it. Every step I take, he sees it too. Every sparrow that falls, nothing goes unnoticed. Every single detail making it through. Don't be afraid, you're worth more than sparrows, even when it doesn't feel that way. Every sparrow that falls, he is counting every ordinary heavy, beautiful day. Every sparrow, every step, he already sees you right where you are. Corner table by the window, set my things down slowly, settled in. Outside the city moved at its usual pace, but in here something different could begin. Ordered something warm and opened up my journal, pen in hand, but didn't write a word for a while. Just sat there letting the morning do its talking. Something about the stillness made me smile. There's a psalm I've carried since I was younger. He leads me beside the still waters, it says. I used to think that meant a literal river. Now I think it means mornings just like this, when the noise inside has found its resting, when the rushing forward finally gives way, when you let the Lord lead you to the quiet and you actually stay. Something settles when you stop and let it. Something breathes when you allow the rest. Still Waters Café, corner table morning. Nowhere else my soul needs to be. He restores me in the quiet places. Still Waters Café, just him and me. Cup of something warm and no agenda. Scripture on the table, journal near the hand. Still Waters Café, I keep on coming back here every time I need to understand. Woman across the room was reading her Bible too. Different versions, same word underneath. We exchanged a look that didn't need explaining. Just two people breathing the same breath. There's a fellowship in being in the same room, even when you never say a name. Knowing that another heart is seeking, knowing that the source of seeking is the same. Wrote 3 lines eventually, then stopped. Didn't need to fill the page today. Sometimes what the Lord is doing in the quiet doesn't need my words to have its way. Sat a little longer than I planned to. Watch refilled the journal, staying close, just receiving what the morning offered. Like a flower leaning toward the light it knows. Thought about the week ahead, the full of it, all the places where I'd need to draw on this. And I felt okay about it in a way I hadn't. Like the well had been refilled by something I would miss. Not a program, not a list, not a performance, just the presence that he promised from the start. Still Waters Cafe, corner table morning. Nowhere else my soul needs to be. He restores me in the quiet places. Still Waters Cafe, just him and me. Cup of something warm and no agenda. Scripture on the table, journal near the hand. Still Waters Cafe, I keep on coming back here every time I need to understand. I've been the kind of person who moves too fast in mornings, who grabs the day before the day is ready, who prays while doing 3 other things at once, who calls it seeking while the ground beneath stays unsteady. But he keeps leading me to these cafe corners, to these pockets of unhurried easy air. Not because I earned the invitation, but because he wanted me to meet him there. The jazz playing low above the coffee smell, the woman with the Bible turned another page. Outside the city hasn't slowed for anyone, but in here we're between the lines, between the age. This is where I lay the heavy down for a minute. This is where I'm reminded what is real, that the grace is not diminished by my failures, that the love is not conditional on how I feel. Rose up from the table feeling different, not fixed exactly, but a little more whole. Thank the Lord out loud in half a whisper for the still waters that he gave my soul. Still Waters Cafe, corner table morning. Nowhere else my soul needs to be. He restores me in the quiet places. Still Waters Cafe, just him and me. Cup of something warm and no agenda. Scripture on the table, journal near the hand. Still Waters Cafe, I keep on coming back here every time I need to understand. Still Waters Cafe, he restores my soul. Come back tomorrow, same corner, same grace. Woke up before the alarm went off today. Lay there listening to the quiet outside. Something felt different in the early air, like a gentle hand had pulled the dark aside. Coffee on and Bible on the table. Page fell open like it knew where I should land. Words I'd read 100 times before, but this morning they felt warm inside my hand. Sunlight coming through the kitchen window, making patterns on the floor I hadn't seen. Sat there in it for a little while, grateful for for the space in between. Some mornings feel like they've been handed to you, wrapped in something you can't quite explain. Not a word for it in any language, just a knowing that you're held again. Before the day begins and pulls me forward, there is this, just now, just here. Grace in the morning light, falling soft and easy. Before I've done a thing to earn the day. Grace in the morning light, coffee getting cold now. Sitting in the gift of just okay. Not a hero, not a saint, just a person trying to remember what is true. Grace in the morning light, it keeps on coming. Every single morning coming through. Neighbor's dog went by outside the window. Old one, slow and steady, knows the route. Owner giving him the time he needed, no rush in it, that's what love's about. Thought about the ways I'd rush through mornings, moving fast before my eyes were open, missing what was sitting right in front of me, missing all the small things he had spoken. Opened up a window, let the air in, bird song and the sound of someone's mower. This is where the holy lives, I think, not just in the high and grand, but lower. In the ordinary Tuesday morning, in the coffee and the worn-out chair, in the moment when you finally settle and you notice he was always there. Before I asked for anything or offer, he has already filled up what was bare. Grace in the morning light, falling soft and easy. Before I've done a thing to earn the day. Grace in the morning light, coffee getting cold now. Sitting in the gift of just okay. Not a hero, not a saint, just a person trying to remember what is true. Grace in the morning light, it keeps on coming. Every single morning coming through. There are days I don't feel worthy of the morning, days I carry yesterday too long into the new. But even then the light comes through the curtains. Even then he meets me where I am, not where I grew. Held a conversation in the stillness, not with words exactly, more like breathing, letting go of what I thought I needed, taking in what only he was giving. Read a verse about the birds, how they don't worry, how the field is clothed in something he provides. Felt a little foolish for my anxious hours, felt a little held for all the rest beside. Closed the book and just sat in the quiet, listened to the morning moving past. This is what I wanna carry with me, knowing that the grace is gonna last. Beyond the morning and into the afternoon, into all the places where it gets hard. Grace doesn't wait for me to have it figured, it just walks right in regardless. No regard. Grace in the morning light, falling soft and easy. Before I've done a thing to earn the day. Grace in the morning light, coffee getting cold now. Sitting in the gift of just okay. warm light. He was here before I